Disney legend Richard Sherman has passed away, but according to Variety, there is one more project that he was a part of that has not yet been released. Could there be another Sherman Brothers musical somewhere in the works? Let's talk about it on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and I am here with my usual co-host VashSky and also fellow collaborator Culture Casino. Guys, we're talking about a heavy subject, but how are you doing today?
You know, this one's tough for me, and this one affected me greatly. I had the pleasure of running into Richard Sherman on a number of occasions, and he was always so gracious, so kind, so generous, and really cared about how you felt about his work, and that he was able to put a smile on your face. So without him, that'll be most unfortunate. But I was reinvigorated, Jonas, when you came to us with this story initially, suggesting that we might hear more of him in the future.
Yeah, I think that once I learned the news that he might be involved in something else, I think it was brightened, because I would say that was rough news to hear. I mean, considering just how much of every element of what he created, it's touched my life when it comes to Disney. I think it touched all of our lives. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said this before on this channel, and I'll say it again. So much about what the Walt Disney Company is and the image that it portrays to the world is tied to what Richard and Robert Sherman did with him in those last few decades before Walt's passing. You know, the Mickey Mouse Club and Tall Paul and Pineapple Princess with Annette Funicello. Obviously, Mary Poppins being there towards the end of Walt's time here. The Sherman Brothers are everything that I think of when I think about what the Disney Company should be. So I knew that this day would come eventually. I always hoped that I would get to meet Richard Sherman, but I'm not going to lie. It's a sad thing to talk about him passing, because he was a joyful person, and whenever he would show up and sit at the piano for a little while, and generally it would be either Feed the Birds or It's a Small World, which so sometimes I wonder if the current company is getting away from him in the same way that the company decided to get away from the Sherman Brothers right after the passing of Walt. And I think that would be a mistake on their part if there's anyone there that is trying to push away from all of that nostalgia and all of those warm feelings that we have for that era of the Walt Disney Company. I didn't want this video to be super somber, but I did come across a story, and I was doing some research here. And I don't want us to be viewed as cashing in, because some people view the videos as cashing in, and that's not what I want to do here. But I came across something that I think other people would want to know about. This story in Variety that was published a few years ago here, animated musical Inkas, the Remmerfinkas, from songwriters of Mary Poppins and It's a Small World, in the works. This is May 4th of 2023, not 2024. So this is a year old, by Rebecca Rubin. Here you have an image of what it might be Inkas. It's not clear who the main character here is, but Inkas the Remmerfinkas, a story about a small flying dinosaur, is being adapted into an animated feature film. Independent film producer Niels Jewell and Sherman Theatrical Entertainment have teamed up to develop the project, which is inspired by the music from the Sherman Brothers. It's the first and final musical from the late Robert B. Sherman and Richard M. Sherman, the songwriting duo behind Walt Disney classics The Jungle Book, Winnie the Pooh, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and Mary Poppins. And it goes on to talk about the Sherman Brothers. So this sounds like this is the Sherman family and Richard Sherman's children working on something incorporating the elder Sherman's work here. Guys, did you know anything about this?
I honestly had no idea this was at all in the works. It's interesting that Robert Sherman is actually referenced here, because he passed away in 2012. So yeah, this will have been the last from the two brothers together. Richard Sherman had been working on, I think the last thing that I knew that he was a part of was Iron Man 2 and Make Way for Tomorrow Today, that this kind of jaunty number as attached to the Stark Expo, and later was used instrumentally in Captain America First Avenger and Avengers Endgame. still trying to find where that exactly is. But you know, he had been featured in the MCU, which is pretty remarkable. But here it looks like the both of them together might be contributing to this, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, and obviously Robert had passed away before Richard. So I don't know. Is this taking archival work when they say it's inspired by it? I don't know if this means that they're incorporating things that already existed, because when you have people that work for as long as the Sherman brothers did, I'm sure there are things that were left on the cutting room floor that almost made it. I think Bedknobs and Broomsticks was an almost made it when Mary Poppins was in production, and obviously I'm not saying they didn't go back to it and finish the work when it was done there, but the indication that was that Bedknobs and Broomsticks was going to be the thing they worked on if they didn't work on Mary Poppins. Let's see if there's any additional information here. In the mid-2000s, Robert's youngest son, who goes by Robbie, optioned and acquired Inkas, and together with his father and uncle, expanded the project into a feature-length animation script. Around this time, the brothers augmented their score with an additional 6 songs, bringing the total to 10. So 10 Sherman Brothers songs. The animatic storyboard team included animation veterans of Disney, Warner Brothers, and DreamWorks. So the draft was completed. The project was shelved during the 2008 financial crisis. Then in 2020, Robbie Sherman co-founded Sherman Theatrical Entertainment Ltd. with co-CEOs Brett Golden and Andrew Kaplan. The company named the Inkas IP, which they are now resurrecting with Jewel and his business partner, Sophie Nordstrom. I grew up with Inkas. I knew all the characters and their songs by heart. I always believed that if the rest of the world were introduced to them, they would fall in love with them too, said Robbie Sherman. I love the idea of this here, that there is something that was passed down, like The Hobbit, you know, and or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, things that originated in telling stories to children. And I have to think that the Sherman brothers probably didn't slouch just because they were doing something for their family at first.
Look, if this is a way to reach back in time and collectively add some of the material that they'd produced but had never seen the light of day, I'm overjoyed, because, you know, think about it. We lost, I think, Vash, I think you mentioned we lost Robert in 2012.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. March 6th. 2012.
Wow. So that you know, just think about reaching back that far in time, and before that, obviously, if it was material they worked on previously, and as Jonas said, you know, they worked together for so long. There's so much that could be out there that we have yet to discover, and you know, and on the occasion that we find ourselves a little sad about the recent loss, I think that's something to be hopeful, and it sounds like it's involved in a project that might become its own way beloved by a different audience entirely.
It tells you how timeless their work was, right? When you can pull something out decade old, maybe even more, and have it still be relevant today, it really tells you just how ahead of the curve these guys were.
Yeah. I totally agree. They were they were revolutionaries in their clinging to happiness and joy in everything that they did. Obviously, there's a few songs here and there that get that idea. The song "The Age of Not Believing," again, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, talks about the age of cynicism. They even acknowledge the existence of the darker side of the world, even if it's just to say, "Hey, you can get through it. You can get past it." The thing that I want to talk about here is that to go back to 2 songs, obviously, from the Carousel of Progress. When things are dark, it's always good to remember that sometimes you will look back on these times with nostalgia. And to quote the song, "Now is the time. Now is the best time. Now is the best time of your life." There are more words in there, but I just want to say, in wrapping this whole thing up, just remind you of one of my favorite Sherman Brothers songs, that there is a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. There's a great big beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away. Thank you so much for sticking with us here on this video.